Starting us off at number 5, we have SCP-579. Knowledge of the containment site for 579 has been deemed unnecessary for all non-essential personnel not involved in its containment. In classic military style, this is on a total need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. From what we've been able to glean from the report is that this SCP must be kept in permanent suspension through use of electromagnets. No other details with that. The equipment required to do this is constantly monitored, and if any instrument is found registering more than 0.2% outside of its median range of functioning or displaying any malfunctions, Action 326 Israfil will be immediately executed. What is Action 326 Israfil, you may ask? Well, any top secret skip needs a top secret procedure to go along with it. There are two parts to this action, only to be used in case of the other failing. 326 Israfil-A means that all doors and windows on site will be sealed, and B means that the gateway is to be destroyed, no matter what casualties may entail. If both fail, no further action will be necessary. Data expunged? This seems like a bad thing, huh? There's a whole timeline of expunged events that can be summed up by saying that the Foundation failed for ages to contain this thing, and then tried to destroy it, and then moved it around to a bunch of different locations. In the end, the current containment procedures seem to be holding strong, but who knows how long that'll last. This one worries me a lot, because there's literally zero useful information in here, and it seems like they really don't have a handle on it. Not that we would ever know if it breaks out, because, you know, data expunged. Coming in at number 4, we have SCP-1983. The location of this skip is redacted, and it is very possible that the effects are not localized. What we do know is that all anomalous events recorded take place in a farmhouse in rural Wyoming. This building was abandoned in 1968 after a series of ritual murders allegedly performed by a satanic cult. More details are available in capture logs for SCP redacted. Great. The front room of this building is anomalous, not appearing to exist where it is supposed to. Measurements of it are always off, and other doors that should lead into the room lead into other doors inside the building. If you enter through the front door and try to double back through the same door though, bad stuff starts happening. People have melted and been pulled through holes that no human should fit through. As you continue on through the rooms and the locations, each doorway lead to become patchwork. Some look like they belong in houses, some from schools, and some rooms even look like shopping malls. Needless to say, it becomes nightmarish fast. If the anomalous properties of the house aren't bad enough, there are also heart-stealing, shadowy humanoid monsters that hang out within it. They can reach right through people's flesh and pull out their hearts with no apparent injury. Then, more of the monsters will grow from the still beating hearts. Plus, the only way to kill them is to shoot them with a silver bullet while genuinely praying to your god. Good luck if your belief is weak. Coming in at number 3, we have SCP-1000. Bigfoot! We've all heard this one before, but there are actually two parts to it. The part you've likely heard about already is the one that details a species of humanoid creatures with a small chance of killing people on sight. Just immediate brain death when you see it. Pretty freaky, right? Well, guess what? It was all a ruse. You had the wool pulled over your eyes, you idiot! Most of the entry can be read as per usual, convincing the reader that the initial danger is real. However, the real story is hidden behind level 3 clearance. The Foundation has willfully misdirected you to keep everyone safe. They named the creature Bigfoot to make it even harder to take seriously. There is no such thing as the anomalous pseudo-disease. No, it does not have a magical death aura. I'm sorry. I can't believe you believe that. There's actually nothing anomalous at all about Bigfoot. It's just a hairier humanoid. In fact, they are just as smart as us. It is true that they evolved alongside us until a certain point, but then something changed. As we humans still scrounged around as hunter-gatherers, the Big Feet became an advanced society seemingly overnight. They developed tools, weapons, agriculture, they even domesticated animals. With these advances, they spread across the planet quickly and soon had an entire society. They invented things that we still don't fully understand. Somehow they came up with organic technology, turning trees and birds into fast-moving ships, herds of animals into trains, bushes into flying vehicles. After a little while of this, us regular humans almost went extinct. But then another strange shift occurred, and we were able to initiate an SK class dominance shift. In one day, we wiped out 70% of SCP-1000's population. Slaughter, mass destruction, technological annihilation. After all was said and done, no traces were left, not even memories. We turned one of their weapons on ourselves and wiped away any knowledge of 1000 along with the greatest civilization Earth had ever seen. A few key humans retained their memories, just in case, and passed on the information to new generations. Folks returned to their hunter-gatherer ways and we evolved to where we are today. So the big feet we see today are just like us, but with the latent knowledge that we took everything away from them. No wonder the Foundation wants us to think that they're dangerous. The scariest part? This message discovered by a researcher. We forgive you. Given choice for now, not forever. Let us back in. Oof. Coming in at number 2, we have SCP-2317. This one was originally thought to be related to 231 and 231-7. The numerical resemblance is definitely there. However, it becomes apparent as you read through the file that this is just a misinterpretation. There are 7 iterations of the report, each revealing more information. Each iteration requires higher level clearance to access, meaning the less you have, the more vague it'll be, letting your imagination fill in the gaps. If you were to look at the first few versions, you would probably walk away with the idea that 2317 is the Scarlet King, or a version of it. There are many similarities to other Scarlet King entries, including a painstaking ritual. If you make it through all the way to the last version, which requires 05 level clearance, you realize then that it's even worse than the Scarlet King in some ways. The entity is revealed to be the Redacted Devourer of Worlds. The cosmic creature was captured and imprisoned by mystics in 1894, but the chains binding it were accidentally damaged. Organizations predating the Foundation tried desperately to repair them, bankrupting themselves in the process. So now there isn't much folks can do to prevent its eventual escape. The biggest threat it poses is internal despair and panic at the Foundation, so for the time being, false containment procedures have been put in place. 220 Calabasas includes elements commonly known from ritualistic magics, religious rites, occult organizations, and special containment procedures. These actions don't actually do anything, but they do keep morale up by introducing a seemingly real way to keep it controlled. If the chains do break, we could have an XK class scenario on our hands. The O5 member who okayed the false procedure has also expunged all data referencing the actual threat. Gotta keep those minds safe. And at number 1, we have SCP-231. The OG top secret terrifying procedure 110 Montauk. It has been a topic of discussion for years at the Foundation. What is procedure 110 Montauk? In fact, it's so notorious it has become almost a boogeyman in itself. Researchers are terrified of Montauk duty and most are rumored to be terminated after the fact, or totally memory wiped with false memories implanted. What's the big deal with this anyway? The intro to this entry states that all personnel assigned to 231 must rotate out bi-monthly for a month of psychological counseling. Any transportation to and from the site must see personnel blindfolded with no fewer than 7 different types of transportation. Candidates must be unmarried, have no offspring, and display total loyalty to the Foundation. While working on site, their identities will be concealed via helmets and integrated voice changers along with matching uniforms. All off-duty hours are to be spent in private quarters alone. No records of serving on the 231 containment team will remain on file. That is a lot of secret information for one skip. Holy Christopher. Why all the insanity though? What makes this one special? Well, SCP-231 is a weakened Scarlet King. 7 girls were rescued from a Scarlet King sex cult and taken into Foundation custody. 6 of them died due to old containment procedures, so 110 Montauk was developed. In order to keep the king within the last girl, known as 231-7, vile, terrible acts must be performed. 231-7 must be restrained to a hospital bed at all times, save for during the performance of the procedure. She is fed via IV drip and is not allowed to be administered any narcotics, anesthesia, etc. She needs to be aware of what's happening for it to be effective. The procedure is to be carried out once every 24 hours and must be monitored on CCTV for the entirety of the event. Sound can be turned off though if it becomes too distressing. The high level of secrecy means that nobody outside the lab knows what this is, leading to the proliferation of very disturbing rumors. There are lots of theories as to what happens, but none have been confirmed. I don't want to say anything too dark on the channel, but I recommend that you research the different tales and theories on your own. You may be surprised by what you find. Kicking us off at number 5, we have SCP-055, the original self-keeping secret, the anti-meme. All information about 055's appearance, nature, behavior, and origin origins is self-classifying. Anyone can stroll into its containment chamber and view it, even study it, taking notes if they so choose. However, once they leave, that information will leak out of their mind. It's not indescribable or invisible, it's just impossible to learn or disseminate information about it. Odd. To this day, it's unknown how the Foundation came to acquire it. They don't even know when it came into their custody or who brought it in. Gotta love it. Who needs to redact info when no info exists? This presents a sort of weird paradox though. How do we know that it's an anti-meme? Wouldn't that information disappear as well? Well, somehow it is known that nothing is known. Stay with me, I can see the steam pouring out of your ears. Some clever researcher decided to experiment with the epistemological implications of an SCP like this and posited this question: what if we took notes about what it isn't? This led to the folks down at the lab being able to remember what 055 is not, and then repeatedly deduce its existence from this. Boy, that's a lot of creative problem solving, huh? It's definitely scary and dangerous though, with some hypotheses wondering if it might be something inserted by another party with the purpose of observing or interfering with all sorts of things. There's no way to combat this though, because nobody would remember what to do. How do you fight something with effortless, perfect camouflage? How do you fight when you don't know you're at war? Oh, anti-memetics. Coming in at number 4, we have SCP-2521. Yeah, we've discussed this one before. It's actually quite popular. So of course we all know that it's and that it's. One of the more interesting things about this SCP is the fact that it can and nobody's been able to figure out where it goes after it. Just make sure you never ever lest you get where happen. Just take a look at that detail how to 2521 and everything will be okay. Just use what I just told you to keep yourself safe, alright? Coming in at number 3, SCP-3211. Okay, I want everyone to go check out this one themselves. Click the link, follow the instructions, and report back to me. I don't know if it changes for each individual person or what. What I do know is that 3211 is a slow-acting anti-memetic anomaly. Once you start reading up on it, you can only recall information about it for up to 6 minutes. After those 6 minutes are up, it'll put some false memories in your head and you'll remember something not at all related to the SCP. Soon after, you'll believe it doesn't exist at all. So go read the article for 6 minutes and let me know what the heck happens to you specifically. I read about a pair of gloves that take anything you put inside them and then it puts it into the subject's mouth. You could push an entire broomstick through the glove and out someone's mouth if you were careful. Of course, after 6 minutes of exposure, you'd forget all about it though. But then again, that's not a real SCP, it's just a fake inserted memory. Some other folks have described microwave ovens, red cubes, the color puce, and a DVD box of Friends missing one disc. I'm just really confused, okay? Coming in at number 2, SCP-3939. This is another one that you need to experience for yourself. Somehow a researcher was able to contain a memetic anomaly within the entry document itself. Once you get started, it reads like a choose-your-own-adventure story. So you go through the motions as a senior researcher trying to classify and contain a new anomaly with very little prior knowledge. The senior researcher character was actually embedded into the story itself to ensure that containment is maintained. As such, he must remain redacted as an additional layer of protection from 3939. Unfortunately, he's also considered to be terminated as he can never leave the story loop. The poor lad laid it all on the line to keep this SCP contained. Thankfully so too, as 3939 is an aggressive meme able to move through any type of information-based medium. It can pass from individual to individual through any communicative method, although stories seem to be the most effective. It's easier for the meme to move to new folks if they're engaged in the media itself, so narratives are perfect catalysts. The researcher mentioned before found out that if you were to develop a story as an experimental form of containment, the SCP could be limited. By inserting himself as a character into the story, 3939 imprints onto him instead of the reader. Then when the story ends, it resets and de-imprints. Thus, perfect containment is achieved. You could read through the story in every possible permutation and it would remain contained. Outstanding work, Mr. Researcher. However, if the story is altered in certain ways, there is a possibility that it might escape, so let's all be careful. SCPs exist on a wiki after all. And lastly at number 1, SCP-3125. This one is so redacted it requires a password to access. Really, if you want to see it, it's hidden behind a keypad, you gotta know the code. I won't let you in on that secret, sorry, but anyone with a little bit of determination and research capacity should be able to figure it out. Just remember that fifithism is heavily connected to memetics. 3125s, huh? All information about 3125 is kept in a top-secret, lead-lined, telepathically shielded room, and only one person is allowed in at a time. Plus, upon exit, everyone enters an airlock full of amnestic gas for 3 whole minutes, so no information's getting out. This mimetic monster could destroy the world if enough people visualized it. 3125 is an extremely large, highly aggressive, anomalous, metastasized meme complex. It's also a mouthful. Don't make me say that one again. However, it made its way into our reality even though it originated somewhere outside of it. It's adapted to much harsher circumstances than the human mind, and we have no natural defenses against it. So it can possess us and make us unable to entertain weaker conventional ideas. Any thought you've ever had would be sublimated into whatever higher order info this meme has to offer. Then you devote your time to furthering its spread. If this being were to ever fully make its way into our reality, we would probably be done in about 12 hours. Humanity would cease to be, as ideas of civilization, culture, society, community, and family would simply stop existing. MK class end of world scenario, baby. Maybe we can stop it, you think? Well, if anyone's able to assemble a mental picture of this thing, then it'll also be able to perceive whoever's thinking about it. It then kills them and all mental bystanders. Mental bystanders, huh? This could be a research group, friends, or even the family of the original observer. This attack also removes all knowledge of the being and its attack from the world, another self-keeping secret. Thanks to this defense mechanism, there's pretty much no history of the thing. We've got no idea how the containment was built or how containment procedures were established. Plus, through extrapolation, it's been hypothesized that memetics research would be much more highly developed if not for 3125. All competent memetic research would eventually discover it, and then they'd be killed, and all the information would be taken away. Yeah. So let's just hope it takes its sweet, sweet time fully manifesting. Goodness gracious. Crunching its way in at number 5, we've got SCP-3959. The less you know, the less you understand, right? Well, sometimes. I feel like knowing too much can make it hard to understand anything. Case in point, logging onto Twitter and feeling your brain melt. But I'll avoid talking about that for now. We'll focus on the information-eating abilities of 3959 instead. This SCP was originally meant to be an algorithm weaponizing information and anti-memes. The Foundation thought it'd be a good idea to put together something like that. It was safe at first, but soon a mild cognitohazardous effect was noticed and it only got worse from there. Now it's catered, and nobody can control it. And if they could, it's likely they would forget. At this point, after the project to weaponize info was deemed a failure, nobody remembers being involved with it at all. See, what was supposed to only affect certain information soon became infovorous. Carnivores and herbivores, take a seat. 3959 gravitates towards any and all large volumes of data in order to consume them, and anything being fed on will redact its own information. There's a whole storeroom at the Foundation full of redacted books, movies, music, and more. The objects affected by this will also generate a powerful anti-memetic effect too, leaving all who contact them out of luck. Information consumed is considered permanently lost from both documentation and human memory. Once it's gone, it is gone. Nobody can say whether it's erasing knowledge outright or somehow retroactively changing causality. Either way, precious info is being deleted from existence and it won't stop. For some reason, 3959 is doing its best to make it to 3959-1, a tome containing a complete history of the human race. The Foundation has done their best to hide and protect this, but it's inevitable that 3959 will make its way back. Containment breach is imminent. How much have you already forgotten? Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-4205. Ah yes, the glowing eyes in glass, the insta-killer extraordinaire. I guess it's kind of easy to boil this one down to basics, but that doesn't come close to answering all the questions about it. At its most simple, 4205 is a pair of eyes that only appear in glass, and if you look at them, you die. Kaput. Life fast-forwarded. All electrical potential drained. Apparently, they can stretch their victim's death out for a very long time though. To an observer, it'll seem like instant death, but in the mind of the victim, it can be an eternity. They can be made to experience things that they're not actually experiencing and suffer in very personal ways. The only reason we know this though is thanks to Wade Dalitz, junior researcher. He saw the eyes and apparently didn't immediately die, and when he went to write the containment procedures, he saw them again. And then they kept showing up as his life and career got worse and worse. For whatever reason, being in contact with the eyes and his computer at the same time made it so that his experiences of dying were transferred into the Foundation database. This allowed more people to learn about 4205, but how? Looking into his report may give up some answers, but it also opens up a lot more questions. There's a lot of stuff packed in here. We see correspondence with his assumed dead dad. He gets chewed out by his supervisor. Other reports of people coming in contact with the eyes. Some self-deprecating internal monologuing. Constantly updated containment procedures that get weirder and more aggressive over time. I can stand up and say that I partially understand this one, but there are so many tangents and references to other things I don't know if I'd believe myself. Take a look and enjoy the lovely whir of an old school computer monitor. Coming in at number 3, we got SCP-3999. This SCP is one researcher's own personal hell. Did I say researcher? I meant author. Written by Lord Stonefish, a longtime SCP Wiki contributor, it's a fascinating look at their interpretation of their relationship with the online community. The author has come forward and said it is indeed about their addiction to the SCP community, their own psyche, and other SCPs that they've written. Once completed, Lord Stonefish decided it would be the last thing they wrote for the site. Sheesh. 3999 is a doozy of a read with plenty of meta, self-referential stuff, and it all boils down to a corpse and a cell phone at the bottom of a neglected containment chamber. The actual entity known as 3999 is a reality-altering SCP with the potential to end the world, but instead it just tortures researcher Talaran. Like, this thing has a hate-on for our poor man here. It causes him endless agony, thrashing his body and soul relentlessly. Reality keeps changing, but only in the area observed by Talaran. Eventually he becomes numb and manages to survive for what can only be assumed is hundreds of years inside of an altered world. Through means I don't totally understand, he finds a way to take down the entity, but at the cost of his own life, I think. There are so many loose parts, so many seemingly random elements that I'm not sure what connects and what doesn't. There are weird, repeating punchlines, the threat of torture and death for all sorts of people, a call for all researchers to convert to Buddhism, references to Nintendo, third-person storytelling passages, and a T.S. Eliot shoutout. In the end, I think the only person who truly understands this entry is the author. And even then, I'm not totally convinced. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-1383. Welcome to the Motel, California. You can check out anytime you like, but the idea of you can never leave. Or something like that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this one. Okay, here's what I can confidently say I understand. Room number 14 at Motel 6 in California has something weird going on inside. Anyone who enters is physically and mentally unchanged, but they become subject to an effect that causes anyone who thinks about them to believe that they're still physically inside that room. From here, it gets fuzzy. People affected by this can move around no problem and keep track of their own location. However, people who are frequently in contact with these affected individuals often complain of frequent cognitive dissonance. If you were to walk into the hotel room, you would notice hundreds of people milling about, but not really think anything of it. In fact, when first discovered, it was reported as an employee blunder. Like, it was totally reasonable that somebody screwed up and accidentally booked hundreds of people into the same room and then they all coexisted. Right. During the initial containment, a security agent found a piece of paper describing a process that intends to assemble an idea trap using a room or other enclosure and a hypothetical component. You still with me? Because I'm not sure if I'm still with me. A bunch of redacted text follows with short breaks involving second-person writing, false pretenses, and more. Somehow the moon is involved and a Spanish language organization, and violent crimes that didn't actually happen, and a bunch of people becoming very mad at the fact that they may or may not have happened. Yeah. I actually went through a post on SCP Declassified about 1383 and really came out the other end understanding about the same. If you got any theories or explanations, fire them down in the comments. Okay, now it's time for one last brain breaker before we conclude. Coming in at number 1, we've got SCP-2719. You ready for this? It's a variable abstract metaphysical construct pointer. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Absolutely. Concepts acted upon by SCP-2719 will either go in or become inside, and the Foundation wants to restrict info about it to people both sapient and biological. Cool. Below the description is a test log, basically a T-chart of objects, people, and even ideas introduced to 2719. Yeah, we can put ideas inside, I think. Examples of test subjects include D-class personnel, a car, containment units, geographical locations, SCP-682, intestinal distress, and the idea of transcendence. Apparently, it can assign the value of inside to stuff. Then you can use it to assign inside to ideas, and then apply the newly defined inside to other things. I sat here for quite a while trying to fully comprehend what's going on. It's very hypothetical, very abstract. I'm not sure if I have the type of brain meant for this kind of thing, but hey, that's why it made the list.